That's what Jennifer comes to do. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 14th Filecoin Core Devs Biweekly meeting. Hope everyone's having a nice time. Those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, it's getting warmer and the sun is shining brightly, which I'm very excited about. Cool. So today we have our usual agenda of updates. We'll be talking about the status of FIP14 and the community poll that we're currently running in order to essentially decide whether we should consider it accepted by the community or not. And then some smaller updates and Q&A as appropriate. But yeah, let's start off with our usual updates. Maybe we'll hear from the Forest team first. Why not?
Sure. So I mean, like, our focus has been very much on preparing for the audit, which is happening in about a month. We're starting on April 26th. And so like a couple things that we've been focusing on is just like, I guess, fixing sort of like the parts of the code that need improvement prior to the audit. So one of those is the message pool. So we've been refactoring that and working on adding optimal message selection, as well as improving our syncing performance as a whole. I don't know, Eric, if you want to jump into more details, if they're relevant for the rest of the group in terms of like the actual improvements we've been working on.
Yeah, sure. So with respect to like tip set processing, a lot of the time spent that we found in our implementation was particularly in the cron actor and in the flushing of the block store at the end of VM execution. So we've been trying to see exactly kind of what is causing like these slowdowns. Like processing like the actual messages doesn't take too much time. It's like probably like a few like 300-400 milliseconds or something like that. But processing our cron jobs takes around like roughly like 2 seconds or something for us. And flushing the buffered block store also takes like 2.5 seconds roughly. But we have a solution for the buffered block store, and we've brought it down from 2 seconds all the way down to like 40 milliseconds, like just this morning, with a little bit of trade-off. With so the trade-off there is like we end up writing just a little bit more data to our block store, but I think it's a good trade-off for now. But yeah, with respect to the cron actor, it's still like not entirely clear why it's like kind of slow for us. Because from my understanding, like the Lotus implementation is able to process like a tip set in like around 1 second or something like that, obviously dependent on the hardware. But yeah, so we're still in the process of trying to figure that one out. And also with respect to syncing, we are just making a little bit more improvements to our like scheduling algorithms for when we're in gossip subsyncing, so that, you know, to like kind of robustify that and minimize kind of some of the overlapping work. And yeah, so that's kind of an update on our syncing stuff. And I guess I'll give a update on some of the other stuff too. So we were working on the RPC for the last couple town halls, or what are these called? Core dev meetings. Feels like a town hall because it's like everybody's here. But yeah, so we've been we got that merged in, and we're just, you know, we're re-implementing our JWT token authentication and stuff for our RPC endpoints, and we're also starting implementation on our CLI, which we used to have before. And it stopped working, but now it works again with the new RPC stuff. So we're just, you know, in the process of like figuring out the most useful CLI commands and implementing all of those. And yeah, I think that's all. Oh, and we're also still continuing the storage market integration. So we're updating our payment channel implementation. And yeah, that's moving along quite smooth. So yeah, that's kind of our progress.
Yeah, cool. That's a lot of work, and yeah, your audit is basically a month away, which is very exciting. Regarding cron actor optimization, yeah, so this is something that the Lotus team and like has also been kind of interested in lately. So one thing that's useful here is that the cron actor is one of the rare parts of Spectacular is that you don't have to pay too close attention to matching all the other implementations perfectly, because gas doesn't matter, right? Because any interesting call to it is an implicit message in which gas isn't counted. So kind of more creative out the box solution, so long as you end up with the same state or possible. I think you've been talking to Zen Grant Wyatt about this already. Is that the case?
We just had like a rough conversation, but nothing too in detail yet. But yeah, I definitely want to connect with Wyatt a little bit more. But yeah, that's a really good point that I hadn't really considered. Like the part where you only really need to match the state and not like the gas. So that's a good point, because yeah, I feel like a lot of we try to do like micro optimizations before on our HAMT, and it turns out to like just muck up everything because we do like one less like read from the database or something like that. So that's a very good point.
Yeah, this is one of those cases where if you think Lotus is doing something stupid, just like do it the better way, do it the different way, and so long as you end up with the same state, which you should, then that's totally fine, and you can be faster. But yeah, definitely talk to Wyatt, because this is something that's been on his mind a lot, and he has a bunch of ideas. He could probably share some like sketches. We can probably like have a good conversation, share some sketches, maybe some code with you. That might be helpful.
Yeah. I just think we just need to do a little bit more of exploration first, because I mean, even like even without optimizations, I feel like our cron actor should be much faster regardless. And then obviously in the future we can all collaborate on like even more efficient things. But yeah, like I feel like there's something in there that's like spooky, that we're still trying to figure out. Yeah, but I'm definitely gonna connect with Wyatt.
Yeah, sounds good. Cool, great. All right, let's hear from Fuhan.
Good evening, everyone. Or morning, depends on where you are. So we've been focusing mainly on stabilizing our solution and finding possible issues. Recently, I'm not sure I have mentioned at the previous meetings that we have identified a pretty big memory leak on part of lip-P2P. It was successfully fixed at the beginning of the week, but now we faced another issue, probably with lip-P2P also, which causes some blocks not to be received at some point. So we're currently figuring it out, taking a closer look on what is happening on the connectivity side, and we're going to fix it somewhere this or next week probably. Well, it is worth mentioning that we're also employing quite a big refactoring in terms of lip-P2P multi-select, and well, Yamux has already been refactored. So we expect some improvements in terms of both performance and memory usage. But I'm not sure when exactly will we be able to deliver these improvements on the lip-P2P side. We are aiming to have it by the, well, as we planned, by the 1st of April, but now as we are facing some more problems in terms of stability, probably the schedule might slip a little bit.
I have some questions actually with respect to that, because you guys implemented your own lip-P2P, so you're probably really familiar with it. But for your implementation on Fuhan specifically, do you do any of like the gossip sub topic param tunings? Like do you find those like particularly like useful? So like right now, just for context, we're kind of using gossip sub in a quite I guess like vanilla way. Like we don't really do too much like topic peer scoring and stuff like that. And I'm wondering if those are like super important, and if you see like great like memory improvements and like and IO improvements from tuning those.
So maybe Ruslan will cover me in that, but as far as I know, we have initially implemented some scoring, but it was not working perfectly, so we disabled it for a while. I'm not sure it's enabled now. So about the fine tuning, I'm not sure what fine tuning is possible exactly. Maybe Ruslan can cover me in that. Otherwise, I will need to research that.
No, I didn't touch the gossip parameters yet.
Yep, that's what I saw.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, let's definitely take more questions async if you have them about them, because yeah, there's lots of people who care deeply about Liquidity and might be able to help.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, sounds good there. All right, Venus, what's up with y'all?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, in last 2 weeks, you will continually working on the distributed mining pool support. And as I mentioned before, we have multiple components working in parallel. Yeah, for example, we have the Venus miner to support different scale of miners for mining. Yeah, that is, we have one miner working for multiple mining actors to mine, and yeah, we're still working on that. And we have an independent Venus wallet component to support different security policies to enhance the security. And another component is Venus Messenger, which is managing the pending messages and also message selection for the mining while generating a block. Yeah, we're still working on different components integration together and to fix some bugs in each component. Yeah, it will take perhaps a few sprints to complete all of this and to have a larger version. We hope to have an initial version to have all the components work together in 2 weeks, and then to polish them in the next sprint. Yeah, this is one thing. Another thing I want to mention here, we have separated some component which is not only for Venus, and actually, for example, the Venus Messenger and Venus Wallet, they can actually be used by any implementation because we have those components working as a service. So I'm thinking if we should separate that into independent projects. For example, we have the remote wallet, secure remote wallet as an independent service, and we have the messenger to manage the pool and to sign on demand when there when it will be packaged. Sending out. I mean, you could configure some policy for the messenger to control the gas limit or something like that. I think we can discuss this later in Slack channel, and how could separate them and to have them independent support others. Okay, that's all.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. And obviously it goes beyond like even the implementations, right? Like I think a lot of kind of our projects and ecosystem partners that are building cool stuff could potentially benefit from having, the Venus wallet in particular comes to mind as something that lots of people might want to use. So yeah, let's have the conversation on Slack as things get kind of more polished, because I think there might be good demand for it.
Sure.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, from the Lotus side of things, we've had a busy couple of weeks. Kind of the key thing that happened was, so in the most recent network version upgrade, we introduced optimistic window posts. And as we said kind of many times on this channel and other channels, we weren't expecting a lot of posts to be disputed, because we kind of thought that someone has to be trying to attack the system or doing something really stupid in order to get disputed. And then the number of posts that were getting disputed was higher than expected, not several thousands every day, but a few every day. And so we finally kind of looked into that and did find a Lotus bug with very much an edge case. So it was like an edge case with how the Lotus miner was sourcing DRAM randomness for its window post when there was a null round at the target epoch for the DRAM randomness, it was basically going backwards when what the protocol expects and what actors expects is that it waits for the next DRAM, or waits for the actual DRAM entry, which will show up in the next step set. So obviously not something that was being triggered a lot, but when it did happen, you were basically guaranteed to submit an invalid post, which you wouldn't catch locally before submitting. Easy fix, put the fix out there in a Lotus patch release, and then we had some bug fighting from other stuff that was kind of tangential to that. So that was kind of the big thing that happened. But the problem has since been resolved. We have the latest Lotus release is 1.53, and was put out yesterday, and so far things look good. Couple of other quick things that I wanted to mention. This is more like meta stuff, but we've been putting a lot of effort into fine-tuning our release process in response to the fact that I think we have a trust issue with the community right now, where people feel like Lotus releases aren't well tested, and they're probably right. So we're trying to slow down our pace, put a lot of like a testing checklist in place so that we know what we should be doing before we ship a release. And if we do have like a critical fix that we want to introduce, as was the case with this DRAM post thing, then that goes in as a patch release with just that change and doesn't take anything else with it. So kind of lots of work going into that. One side note is just in case if people pay attention to Lotus versioning here. So far, we've been using the minor version bump to indicate a mandatory release, quote unquote, meaning there's a network bump associated with it. We're going to disregard that practice and use minor versions to mean minor versions and use patch versions to mean patch versions. So if you see 160 or 170, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a mandatory release. It might just be an optional release. That's kind of one note there. Other thing that we've been spending a lot of time on, which is basically our next topic on the agenda, is the FIP14 stuff. So we'll put a pin in that and come back to it. I think that's pretty much it. A lot of our focus is around making Lotus more usable, as I've mentioned. So we have some project teams that are working on improving how messages get selected, whether messages land on chain, the deal making success rate, and kind of Lotus as a project or as a product, as opposed to like the network side of things. So lots of improvements happening there slowly, but not too exciting to this group, I think.
One question about that bug. Do you know if anybody's stakes got slashed because of that?
No one's stake would be slashed. Well, a stake is not really a Filecoin concept, but people were definitely slashed as a result of it, because if you do submit an invalid post, you get slashed, and the numbers are not small. So there was a cost to that bug for sure.
Were these people compensated in any way?
No, like who would compensate them, right? Like we could consider like some kind of like community proposal, but there isn't like any one person that could be compensating them.
Good to know.
Yeah. Decentralized world, what can you do? Our bugs are everyone's bugs, unfortunately. But yeah. No.
I have a question. So have you guys developed that whole release checklist process yet? Because I would like to take a look at that and try to use that for us when I mean, it'd be useful for all of the implementations for when we're all fully in production and stuff. And
yeah, 100%, and you absolutely can, so long as you promise to also provide feedback, because I'm really looking for feedback here. Yeah, let me drop the link in the chat right now. It's basically it's a PR. We haven't actually landed the template yet, but it'll be going into the actual Lotus code base.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thanks.
Pull request 5826 for the benefit of anyone doing the recording. Yes, feedback very welcome, and obviously feel free to blatantly plagiarize it for your own purposes if that's helpful. It's basically copied from the IPFS release issue template, so there's a chain of plagiarism happening here. Cool. Any other questions about Lotus stuff or really anything else? Cool. Okay, let's move on to FIB 14, which I think is the next item on the agenda. Yes, I think Hunter already dropped the link in the chat. Yeah, so this is FIB 14, which is basically the do we allow folks to extend V1 sectors? We've had this conversation a few times already. So from a security perspective, we continue to feel it's okay, it's not the greatest thing, but there's probably no real advantage that can be gained, no real cost to the network that can be incurred as a result of allowing these to be extended to a maximum lifetime of 540 days, which is what the FIP proposes. Anything longer, we're kind of uncomfortable with. And that's basically where we were the last time we spoke about it. So what we've done since then is just dropped a link in the Zoom chat to Filecoin, which is this tool that we built a while ago that's basically for polling the Filecoin community, which is basically exactly what we want to do here. So we open this poll basically saying, hey, do we want this FIP or not? And Filecoin can be used by pretty much anyone on the network, like if you hold tokens, if you are a storage client, and so on. We kept this poll restricted to miners because looking at the GitHub issue, it kind of felt like miners themselves were super divided about whether this FIP was wanted or not. So basically, yeah, if you have a storage miner that has power, you can vote in this poll. And right now it's winning 96-4 in favor of adopting the FIP. There's still tons of storage that haven't voted yet, though. Like turnout is like about maybe 16% or so right now. Yeah, so we'll see what the results of the poll are. The poll runs until mid-Saturday UTC. And then based on that, we'll kind of make a decision. Like this isn't a, if it's above 50%, we will do one thing or the other, but this is kind of like, so based on this, we have a sense of how the community feels. And in this case, yeah, if the community is strongly in favor of one decision or the other, then we'll just go with that because we've kind of talked about all the other aspects of it. Any questions about that or thoughts about this process in general? Do you feel it's fair? Do we feel, do you think we're going about this in a good way? Because this is the first time we've done something like this. So it's a learning process for us for sure.
Personally, like, I mean, I don't feel too strongly either way. I mean, I'm leaning towards like not implementing this. Like I just like I don't see I think most of these V1 sectors are like from Space Race, and it's like I feel like originally the plan was to erase Space Race and start from New Genesis anyways, but somehow we like forked Space Race into mainnet. And like I don't know, I just feel like, having a hard fork just for something like this, like, doesn't seem to make sense. But again, I don't really feel too strongly either way. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on whether it's like quote unquote fair or not.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting, right? It's like fairness is like we like to live in objective terms, and fairness is not necessarily something objective. The thing that bugs me about this, and the reason I'm kind of gently in favor of it, is it sucks if you seal the sector for 180 days instead of 540 days, and as a result of that, thinking that you'd be able to extend it later on, and as a result of that, some people sealed all the way for the 540 and will have the full sector lifetime, whereas other people are like, I didn't know that this option would be taken away from me. And so I kind of feel like that option should only be taken away if we feel better, like if there's a proper security concern, if we're like, no, this is unsafe, which is not where we are right now. And so that's kind of where I come to it, but I don't necessarily feel strongly either, which is why I was happy to like let this be a community decision for the most part.
Yeah, like one of my main concerns is like if we do end up implementing this, that like it could set some sort of precedent for what counts, like what is like a valid concern for a network upgrade in the future, whatever that precedent might be. Like I'm just afraid, like doing something like this might just open doors for other things that are more like controversial or like opinionated or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good flag, and like. This is what's tricky, right? Like at the end of the day, on some level, like the implementers are who ultimately will be, will be like implementing a FIP or not. And so there, on some level, it's kind of like the decision is made here. But at the same time, like especially with a FIP like this, the change in question is 2 lines and anyone in the world could make it. And if that gained enough traction, then that's what the Filecoin network is doing. Like there's no one really steering the ship here, which is as intended, of course. I do agree with that concern, though. I think the important thing to do there will be that, like, if something doesn't, like, we can have FIPS written, obviously, and the more FIPS the better, and the more community participation the better. But if something doesn't pass the security check, then it can't get any further. Like if we feel it, like, and that's something that we can kind of try to be objective about. But like, are there network security concerns here? And if that's a yes, then it doesn't get much further than that. But agreed, like we're definitely setting precedent here because this is the first time we're doing any of this stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, like, maybe the FIP itself doesn't necessarily have a security concern, but doing a hard fork is a security risk, like in itself, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious to I mean, it's obvious like what the miners want already, like even if there's only 16% of the people voting. But I'm very curious to hear from the other implementations on like their opinions on this.
Yeah, in my opinion, I would think in this time, okay, especially the process is a very good thing for the communities and for the ecosystem, because yeah, before we have yeah, almost everything yeah, I made, okay, the decision for everything were made by the PL. Yeah, but right now we are have a kind of process. We initiate this process to have the community members to discuss all of this, and we have the process for the new trial of the governance, which is very good. I would think. Okay, this is one thing, and another thing is that we still depends on the professional team to make the decision. Yeah, this kind of governance, yeah, which is good. Yeah, I would say this too. Yeah, and this is the first time actually we handle this kind of FAPE. There are lots of arguments actually to have one process to handle this. So yeah, I would like to see how it move on. How could it be successful or or a failure? Say this, and we come back to do some post-mortem and to perfect the process. Yeah, that's my opinion. Yeah, personally, yeah, for this FAPE, yeah, particularly, I as one of the community member and also one of the miners, I would think that yes, fairness is one thing I strongly support. Yeah, that's one thing I want to mention too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's two important threads there, almost like just restating what you said. Number one, yeah, I'm definitely happy with how much of this did not come from any of us really, or did not come from PL at least, where the FIP was written by the community, the implementation came from outside of us as well. So like that is definitely good, because that's something we really want, is like push a lot of this decision making away from us. So that's been good to see. Obviously, this is something the mining community is heavily invested in, but if that generates momentum for stuff like this to happen with in other domains, that'll be really good. Also, yeah, definitely echo the point about yeah, let's do a postmortem here. Let's get some learnings. Let's get feedback from everyone, this group, the community, kind of everyone affected by this. Already, a lot of small miners have been pointing out that that they feel it's unfair because if you only have a few terabyte miner, then you're a drop in the pond or drop in the ocean in the current poll. But that's, on some level, that's kind of how blockchains work. But at the same time, is there stuff we can do to allay that? One thing we can do is, when assessing the results of the poll, we can also look at the number of ballots cast in either side instead of just the overall power. So at least we get a sense of how smaller miners feel. So there's definitely some good learnings that we'll draw here. On some level, it's good that at the end of the day, this is a fairly small decision. Like, it's contentious for sure, but it's not it's not the biggest decision we've ever made. So it's good to be kind of almost getting like a test run with something small and not too consequential before there'll be scarier, bigger, harder decisions to make in the future, I'm sure. But
yeah. Do we have any people from the actors implementation here? Because I have like one question with respect to this upgrade in particular. Or maybe you can like anybody.
It was a question.
Like I was just wondering if this like requires like a new major release of the actors crate.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. It's okay. Yeah, because yeah, that would be kind of annoying.
Yeah. The entire upgrade here should be in total. On our side, it'll be like 10 lines of code. It'll be the actual PR and then adding network version 11, where if you're past network version 11, allow extending these sectors with this restriction. Is basically all that needs to happen. And then we test for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, so on the FIP, if you guys like, from what you're telling me, it's like you guys on your side have implemented this already preemptively. If you could just link to those PRs where you've implemented this on Lotus and on spec actors, like maybe I'll like, just go ahead and like make a draft on that on our side as well.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, we actually haven't done anything on our side, but we did have the community PR coming from Stephen, which has been reviewed. So that's spec actors 1384, dropping it into chat now.
Thanks.
Yeah, so that's basically all the work that needs to happen on the actor side. The Lotus side of things will be use this new version of actors, and network version 11 exists at this height. So should be nice and simple. Yeah, so that does bring up the, sorry, any other questions about this process before we start to talk about kind of the timeline that we're looking at?
Sorry, I just want to point out, I just linked a discussion in the Zoom chat. So community discussion 114 is where we're going to collect feedbacks on like how we do this, like pooling, like community governance pooling mechanism, like in the future. Like if you have any thoughts, leave a comment there. And I also want to point out, like I want to put that on record. Yes, this is not a voting tool, but a polling tool. It's like this group of people, core implementers at Filecoin Foundation should review the results from different perspectives after the pool ends, instead of we are just saying, hey, we take storage minus power and make the decision. And also like in the future, we definitely want to open other categories like stakeholders to vote, for example, core devs, token holders, storage clients, which is also a huge part of the network. So yeah, if you have any thoughts, leave a comment, and we will work with the tooling team to make the pool, like the tool better.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah. Okay. So let's. So in terms of timeline, so we did. If you look at the FIPS issue, we got this like report done, or Block Science gave us this report about when these sectors will start expiring, and basically they've already started expiring, but like in the few like tens every day, and that number starts to escalate around mid-April. So we were thinking of an April 12th network upgrade, with the Lotus release for that going out basically in the first few days of April, probably, and giving people about 7 to 10 days to upgrade. Yeah, does that say, because the change is so small, the implementation work is basically non-existent here. So it's mostly about testing it in a DevNet, making sure that it does what we think it does, so you can actually extend these sectors, then put it on calibration net, and then put out the release and tell everyone to put it on mainnet. Like it's very much the exercise of it as opposed to the actual implementation work here. Does April 12th for the network upgrade itself sound good to people? We should share this timeline. We haven't actually posted it yet because we don't actually know if this will be happening or not yet. This is all like tentative, but that's kind of what we've been thinking.
Yeah, I think we're better to stick on the plan is because as we, and according to the data we gathered over the first wave of expiration is, I think, from April 13th. So because we're doing this for to make it more meaningful, that date will be a good date, I would think.
Yeah, it's a little tight, but yeah, I definitely I feel strongly that if we are doing this, it should happen yeah, before the first wave of expiration starts. If not, we're only making it even more unfair, where some percentage of people will have their sector saved and others won't. But that's just my opinion. Cool.
Sorry, I just want to ask the other implementers, what's the best way in the future for mandatory network upgrade? What's the best way for us as a group to decide the timeline? So I mean so before it's we will propose a timeline, we will ask opinion for within this group and see how everyone feels, with all these active integrations, community concerns, all that. Do we prefer to do that async, or how should we start the conversation is my question, because we don't get too much response, async, to be honest. So
yeah, I mean, how I kind of what I kind of envision future network upgrades to look like is obviously with a regular cadence and like a more formal process. So it's I mean, I envision most of these network upgrades to be based on FIPS that are submitted, and then how some X amount of time before our scheduled upgrades, we will come together and kind of discuss what FIPS should go into this next upgrade, and then we kind of do it like that. That, I mean, that's kind of the ideal situation. I don't know how, I think that should work, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of agree with Eric, though I also think that the exact async, the way you communicate the changes might be also useful to establish. So it might be via GitHub or the discussion in Slack, or the most effective, I think, is these biweekly meetings where we discuss future plans for at least several weeks priorly.
Yeah, we talked about this back in meeting 12, if I remember correctly, about how we want to do this kind of thing moving forward, and we basically hit those same points, which is most of the work should be happening in FIPS, so everyone already knows what's going on, and the question is mostly which FIPS are going into this release and which aren't. There was also the flag that a few of y'all raised, which was if we do have smaller tweaks to spec factors, then a detailed change log and explanation of exactly what, essentially if anything happened not through a FIP, then clear explanation of exactly what was happening there is very helpful, because if not, kind of decoding that is a nightmare. And then the missing piece was agreeing upon the launch epoch together. Probably one thing that would be useful is just kind of discussing when we think the next network upgrade will be in every one of these meetings, just being this is when we think it is. Are we still on track for that? Do we want to push it forward or backward? So I guess on that note, right now, obviously there may be an upgrade depending on the outcome of this poll on April 12th, but that'll be a very small one. Apart from that, we're thinking V4 actors that includes the proof aggregation FIP 13 in June. Is that workable for everyone here, or what are initial thoughts about that?
I think June makes some sense, especially if we can have a release candidate out for spec actors and all of that stuff before then. Mm-hmm. And if we have a good idea of exactly which FIPS are going in, so we can kind of prepare for that and get this interop net and all that stuff back up and running. I think those are going to be very crucial, because I think by the time June comes, we should finish our audit, and we should be on mainnet. So yeah, fingers crossed. We're still syncing mainnet right now. It's still working. So hopefully in June, nothing blows up. But yeah, so yeah, I think June sounds okay if we have all of those things, interop net, release candidate, a month or something before, and kind of all those kind of check boxes. Yeah.
Anything else people would like to put on that list of, at least for the next network upgrade, what is the stuff that we'd like to see? InterruptNet and Actors release at least a month before. Anything else comes to mind?
Test vectors?
Test vectors, yes.
Test vectors, yeah. Wow, of course. Yeah.
Happy to announce that Wyatt is kind of like pushing forward on that. So after a lot of lost momentum, we're hoping to make that a priority again. So that's good.
Yeah, maybe also having an interruptnet by this time will help. But...
That's fun. Cool, sounds good. Yeah, obviously we'll iterate on this. We'll see. I'm sure there'll be stuff that we didn't put down on this list that we'll discover later would have been helpful, and we'll include them next time. But yeah, let's do a check-in kind of every time we have these conversations, being like, yeah, we're still looking at June, or June's not happening, or worst case, it actually has to be May for some reason or the other. But let's not allow those worst cases to happen, because we've done enough. We've done enough of rushed timelines. I think we can let's slow the beep down. Yeah.
Kind of over the fire drills.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, the last thing I wanted to talk about very quickly is FIP12. Let me drop the link real quick. Thanks, Hunter, for having them on the issue. Oh, you beat me to it. FIP12, this is the very small one that we talked about, I don't know, a few meetings ago. Basically, we want people to be able to reuse verified client addresses to get top-ups instead of having to, either fully exhaust their data cap, or just like abandon one address and and use the second address if they want to get some more data cap. Yeah, I don't think anyone had any issues with it, so it was sitting in last call for a while. We're moving it to accepted, unless someone suddenly discovered a major objection to it.
Yeah, pretty uncontroversial. That's going to be probably part of V4 or V5.
I'm hoping to get it into the next network upgrade, just because it should be very simple.
Like the next network upgrade, as in the one that's in April?
The next planned, regularly scheduled network upgrade, not anything that happens as a result of the full poll. So the June time, yeah.
Cool.
In my head, that's the next real network upgrade, and this is just a one-off thing. We'll also like to get FIP11 in, which was the one that removes the Dutch option for consensus fault reporting. Again, that's about deleting 30 lines of code, so it should be fairly easy to do as well. But we'll cross those boards when we come to them, or whatever the phrase is. Yeah, that's basically everything on my timeline. Any questions? Any stuff that folks want to talk about? Yeah, Jennifer flags FIP8, which we can talk about. It's probably not getting into the June network upgrade, because it's going to be a bit of work as well. So maybe we hold off on that, because if not, we'll talk about it now and then revisit it like several months later when we actually get around to implementation. But we can if people want to. I don't have a lot of context here, but Nikolai is here, who can maybe give us a 2-minute version.
Hello.
Hey.
Let me just give you a 2-minute version of the things that we're working on in general. IPP is this. We need to find a better name. I think we do actually have a better name. I think it's snark pack or something like this. It's a way to package snarks in a single proof. So maybe we will stop using IPP. We start calling it snark pack. And the idea is that you put multiple proofs into one proof. And so instead of paying for gas 1,000 times for 1,000 proofs, you only pay as close as it gets to one proof. So it's massive gas saving for miners. We had a small issue. It was an economic issue, which is we don't want small miners to, they will save, of course, but a small miner could save less than large miners. This could lead to large miners being able to save way more than small miners. The difference was between 2x a small miner, and a large miner would be able to save up to 20x. And because of this and other analysis that we did, we decided that we don't want to allow the full potential of Snarkpack to everyone. And this means that you're not going to be able to pack thousands of proofs. We're going to limit this to 200 proofs. And so in a way, we're limiting the power of the technology to make sure that it is fair. But at the same time, we're also extending the submission window between a pre-commit and a proof commit from 1 day to 6 days. This means that a miner can now accumulate many proof commits and then submit a single proof commit. This makes sure, because we've seen that according to the stats, the average small miner reaches maybe 200 proof commits in 6 days, and they will definitely not be able to generate 200 proof commits in a single day. And we think that this is already like a huge saving by itself. And also, due to some gas things that I'm not really understanding because I didn't look into, it looks also that 200 proofs, it's some sort of plateau improvement, because even if you can aggregate more than 200 proofs, you still the cost of gas for state reads starts to become really high. Yeah, so Snarkpack is happening. We have the FIP is being fixed, has been fixed, and so you should see everything that we are discussing into the FIP. Maybe the name is still IPP. We're going to change it to Snarkpack. Is also friendlier. And the second thing is, but we're probably going to postpone this change, is a pre-commit. So the Snarkpack saves massively proof commits messages on chain. You will basically go from the amounts that we have today to a potential of maybe 10x less. This is like the maximum ideal. And we can do something similar for pre-commits. And we do have this FIP, but we probably won't be able to ship this FIP at the same time as the Snarkpack, and maybe also risky to integrate two different changes of this kind. But this, like, heads up, multiple implementations, we may have pre-commit batching, maybe not in these updates, in the next one.
Sounds good. Can we say definitely not in the June upgrade?
Yeah, definitely not. Sorry.
Yeah, sounds good. Cool. Yeah, so we'll move along that FIP as the momentum builds for it. But right now, basically, we only have attention for FIP 13. Cool. Yeah, sorry, Nicola, I didn't ask you to share your updates. I also did not ask the Filecoin Foundation to share their updates. So if y'all would like to jump in, please do so. Sorry about that.
I know Clara wants to jump in, but I feel like I don't have any updates. Great to hear from everyone. I've got the individual threads with a couple of you, but no major updates.
Nice. I will say that a lot of the Phil poll stuff was driven by the foundation, which was great because that is the right place where for stuff like this to be driven. So it's nice. I think a lot of this just feels like we're taking steps in the right direction and moving towards much more decentralization, which is exactly what we want.
Yeah.
Also, Filecoin Foundation is one of the FIP editors now. Yay!
Yay!
Cool. Any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to introduce Jorge to the team, the implementers team. He's joined, the first project, and yeah, really excited to have him on.
Nice. Hi, Jorge. Welcome. Yeah, do you want to give us a quick intro?
Yeah, no worries. I joined maybe like a week and a half ago, and before that, I was working on the core node implementation for Graph Protocol, which is like a indexing layer on the Ethereum blockchain. They're going multi-chain, but and I've been kind of working in startups and in the blockchain ecosystem for a while now, and been watching Filecoin from afar ever since Juan kind of started releasing like the specs. So I'm happy to join the effort and participate.
Nice, welcome. It's great to have you, and thank you for your interest in and now support of Filecoin.
Yeah.
All right, I think we can wrap up there if no one has anything else they'd like to bring up. Cool. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Bye bye.
Bye.